What's up, guys? UFC 318 is this weekend, and I'm here to bring you my picks, breakdown, and predictions on the card. This is a pretty solid card overall, for it not being a pay-per-view, but it is a pay-per-view. But before we get into breaking down the card, I want to give you guys a chance to make some money. If you join my Tapology group at tapology.com/groups/2048, you can join my Tapology group, make your fight picks, and if you come in first place like my friend did last week here, Donner, he barely got me if it hadn't been for the Stephen Thompson robbery. You can win as much money as I have subscribers. Now, that's going to be capped out at 100 once we hit the 100, until I can monetize my channel at least. But we have a good little group of people. We have 14 total so far, and yeah, you can earn money as long as you have a CashApp or something like that I can send it to. We will now get into breaking down the card. I will have the Tapology group in the description, comments down below, so you guys have like as much access to it without having to go do it yourself as possible. Anyways, let's get into this awesome card. We've got Max Holloway versus Poirier as the main event. It's their third time fighting, but we start with the early prelims and end with the main event here. We get right into a women's fight, and as is tradition on this channel, here we go. So it goes with the favorite. It's going to be picking Carly Judice. Now, how she wins from there is up to us. I think it'll end up being a decision. It's a women's fight. Although women's fights have been pretty exciting lately. I say this again, outside of like specific ones. The ones closer to the main card are the worst ones. The ones on the early prelims have been like finishes and solid fights lately. Kind of weird. I've said it before and I'll say it again. They're in their like early 2000s men's era where they're like, you have a couple that are like kind of well-rounded, like in back then's terms, but you know, a lot of one skill set people that are pretty dominant, and it's leading to some finishes, and I'm loving it now. Women's MMA is actually somewhat fun. We're gonna move up to the middleweight division. We've got Bruno Ferreira versus Jackson McVeigh. This is gonna be Jackson McVeigh's first fight in the UFC. I think he's a solid little prospect. He's a decent underdog, especially for a guy Bruno Ferreira's size. McVeigh could get him in the clinch, land some big shots in this fight, but I just think that Bruno Ferreira, being the more experienced guy at the higher level, I just think there were a lot of things when I look back at McVeigh's tape that, you know, he got dropped on the regional scene. Although that's not like always the worst thing, it was more of a saved by the bell kind of thing. And with Bruno Ferreira, I don't think you're going to get saved by the bell. I think he's going to get dropped and finished within the... It might take Bruno Ferreira some time to get used to this dude's size, so I almost want to say second round, but I think early first round or late first round would be the trick. It'll either be early second round or late first round. I'm going to be picking Bruno Ferreira by KO round 1. He might submit him, though. His ground game is pretty solid, and he does have some submissions that he can hook up. Oh, God. Moving to the heavyweight division. These are worse than women's MMA fights, and try to prove me wrong on that. Ryan Spann versus Lucas Breadsticks. I don't want to pick either of these guys. They are both terrible, terrible fighters. And Ryan Spann is just... He's so finish reliant, but like at least he has the athleticism to do so. But he looked so bad at heavyweight last time, like so flabby. He didn't look like how Vitor Petrino looked when he moved up to heavyweight, like he had worked out in his life. That being said, I'm going to be picking Ryan Spann by KO round 1. Lucas Breadsticks is fucking terrible. I don't know what to pick on this, honestly. Like, Lucas Breadsticks could obviously just blob around and win a decision against Ryan Spann, or, Ryan Spann's stupid self could just get finished. He's a terrible fighter. They're both terrible, but I'm not going to keep it on. We go from one terrible one to another. Whatever. We've got Jimmy Crute versus Marcin Prachnio. You have a guy who can win fights in the UFC against guys who shouldn't be in the UFC versus a guy who has fought better fighters and just can't win at all. Can I pick draw? I'm gonna reluctantly pick Jimmy Crute by submission. I think that Marcin Prachnio's striking game is gonna be too good for him on the feet. But yeah, I really don't know, man. I think that Crute will get him down. Our mullets are not the same. This dude does not vibe with me. I don't like Jimmy Crute in the sense of picking him. But I am picking him to beat a 37-year-old that hasn't beaten anybody of any relevance. But neither has Jimmy Crute, to be fair. But at least he's fought people of relevance. I don't know. I'm done with this fight, too. Moving to the welterweight division, we've got Adam Fugitt versus Islam Dulatov. I think Islam Dulatov is going to come out here and finish Adam Fugitt, but Adam Fugitt's kind of tough, so I will be picking a second-round finish. I think Dulatov is one of these prospects who actually coming off the Contender Series that is actually skilled. There are a lot of just feeder that come in through there, and they're trash, and you should pick against them every time they fight against a UFC fighter, almost like someone who's been in the UFC. But fuck me, Adam Fugitt has never beaten anybody of any relevance. He loses to guys who are pretty solid prospects in Mike Mallet and Michael Morales. And Dulatov seems to be one of these kind of prospects that he's a big guy. He has some solid power for the division. Technique's really good. Nipples are weird, I think, if I remember right. Like, it was a weird nipple guy. But that'll be how I leave that. Dulatov by round 2 KO. Moving to Atiba Gutierrez versus Robert Valentin. Ever since seeing Robert Valentin in the Ultimate Fighter house or post the Ultimate Fighter talking about eating mushrooms and seeing the gods in the woods, the Norse gods in the woods, I wanted this dude to prevail. But he's clearly just stupid and terrible. The only positive of him is that he attempts to finish the fights, and he is violent, or tries to be. But I'm gonna pick Atiba Gutierrez by KO. This dude has some serious knockout power. It's not ridiculous like the way they're making him to seem like a 185 Francis Ngannou, because he's not that. Robert Valentin could catch him, honestly. Valentin's wild enough to where he could just catch you. And it would not surprise me, especially with how, some super unorthodox fighters just sit there and it really bothers dudes who are either new to the game or just don't understand it. But I think Gutierrez is just going to step through when he starts being goofy and just crack him. I think he's going to KO him. It's probably going to be a pretty bad KO, honestly. Look for this to be one of the KOs of the night. KO of the night kind of performance. Moving to Francisco Prado versus Nikolai Varetnikov. God, I watched tape on both these guys last night, and it feels like just as bad as the women's fight, where it's like flip a coin, and you'll probably get it right. I'm gonna pick Francisco Prado reluctantly. Like, he's not built for this weight class in the slightest, and if Varetnikov just bullies him, it would not surprise me in the slightest. But he looked terrible on the feet against Danny Barlow, and he looked okay on the feet against Danny Barlow, but Danny Barlow was so much faster than him. He reacted to every single feint and every single strike that came from Barlow. My cats are being fed right now. Every single thing Barlow did, he got this huge freaky reaction, like he covered up or like flailed his arms out. If Francisco Prado saw that and understands what to do with things like that, like, when he flares his arms out, you just start coming with hooks through and, like, ducking through his shit. Just start blasting him. When he starts covering up, then start ripping to his body. Just, he overreacts to everything. I'm going to be picking Prado to just win this fight by KO. I think he will win this fight by KO. I think it's going to take maybe 2 rounds. Maybe Varetnikov's a little problematic for him to find early, since he is a bit rangy and has a little bit better footwork than Prado, I would say, but not much. He does, like I said, he freaks out when it comes to people coming forward at him and, like, showing him strikes or attacks. So I've got Francisco Prado winning by KO. I think he's going to land some vicious body shots. That's going to bring the hands down. He's going to land a big KO. This dude overreacts to everything, like I said. Don't be surprised if you see it happening. One of the sadder fights to have to call of the night. We have Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen. I think that Brendan Allen's going to win this fight pretty handily, outside of him doing stupid shit. Brendan Allen does do stupid shit very often. I hate that Marvin Vettori's having to come into this fight after his brother passing the way he did, and I just don't understand how his mind's going to be in this. He even mentioned fighting for his late brother at this point. I hope he wins, and I hope that I'm wrong. But I think Marvin Vettori is going to lose by decision. I think this is going to be a pretty clear, obvious 29-28. Maybe Vettori grabs a round off of him. I just don't like this fight for Vettori right now. I think he should have taken some time. Skill build. The guy doesn't do anything. He just kind of marauds forward and just throws straight punches, 1-2s. He's not going to win against Brendan Allen unless Brendan Allen just somehow fluke injuries or something like that. I've got Allen by decision. I think it'll be a pretty easy fight for him. Moving to Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira. Finally, we have a heated matchup, a great matchup. Fantastic fight. I can't wait to see this. This is, I think, my most anticipated fight of this entire card outside of the main event, which I'm not really, I just don't like that they made that fight. I thought there were so many other fights they should have made rather than Dustin versus Max, but we'll get into that. We're down in the bantamweight division. We've got Vinicius Oliveira versus Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips coming off of a loss to Rob Font, and I believe Oliveira's last fight was Saeed Nurmagomedov. It was. I am going to be picking Vinicius Oliveira. I think that he has more experience, for one. He has more fights overall. He is used to tracking down people as well. He is good at tracking down these guys with good footwork. He tracked down Sopaj in the third round and flying kneed him. He has beaten guys who have good footwork. Ricky Simon, Bernardo Sopaj, and Saeed. Saeed's one of these longer, lanky dudes who have Kyler Phillips-esque footwork. And I think he dealt with him very, very easily. And I almost want to pick Vinicius Oliveira to get a third round finish here in this fight. I think I'm just not quite sure how tough Kyler Phillips is to finish. I feel like if Rob Font decisioned you, then Oliveira might as well, but I don't know. I kind of want to pick third round KO, but decision feels right if Rob Font couldn't get him there. I do think Kyler Phillips is going to give him a few issues at first. He is shorter with a longer reach, so look out for that. That may give Oliveira some problems at first, but I think that he'll start to overcome it. I think he's faced that kind of thing before, probably, and did well against it back then. He is 22-3. I mean, he has a very, very good record. This kid's fucking awesome, and I didn't think he was as good as he was based on his Tapology fight back when it happened. I was like, I think that Tapology kid was better than him. He just got landed on viciously by a flying knee. But no, Vinicius Oliveira is very, very good, and I will be picking him to win what I think a pretty dominant fight. I think it'll be either Kyler Phillips grabs like the first round off of him, and I think that will be the case. I think Kyler Phillips is going to grab the first round off of him. It's going to look kind of like, oh shit, was Vinicius the right pick here? And then Vinicius is going to start taking over in the second and third because Kyler Phillips has gas tank issues for one. And damn, everybody's picking Oliveira. Jesus. You know what? Since Kyler Phillips has gas tank issues and all these people are fucking picking him to win by decision, I'm going to pick KO in round 3. I think that Vinicius is the kind of guy who looks for that kind of thing too. He is more of a vicious fighter. Like, he looks to hurt you rather than just point fight. I will be picking Vinicius Oliveira round 3 knockout. So when it comes to this methods and correct picks, I think I'm going to do good on the UFC predictions tracker this week as well. Which we should have been first on a replacement or return on investment because this motherfucker only picked 6 fights. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Moving to the main card, we've got Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber. I don't know why they gave this matchup to Michael Johnson, but I am grateful for it for my viewing pleasure in the sense of watching Michael Johnson get knocked out and seeing Zellhuber get back on track. Plus, we will be getting a fight pick right. I'm going to be taking Zellhuber by round 1 KO. I think that he's just going to overwhelm Michael Johnson, and he's not going to... Round 2 knockout. I don't think he's going to be able to handle Zellhuber's pace. He might land on Zellhuber early, but the more tired he gets, the more he slows down, the more Zellhuber's going to land on him. And he's just going to eventually tear him apart, I think. If he's going out here and going to war with Ribovics, he's going to knock out Michael Johnson fairly easily. Sorry, my cat's trying to get in my lap, and I'm trying to avoid that. I mean, I guess I could see Michael Johnson giving him troubles, but I don't know. He's too old at this point. There's no shot. The old Michael Johnson might have knocked him out, and then we would know Zellhuber's going to be a really good fighter. Moving to Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull, we have a fantastic fight between two stocky, short individuals. I think this is going to be a pretty solid fight until it ends. But I don't know if it comes to an end, honestly, early. Ige is a KO kind of guy. Maybe I should pick him by KO. I just feel like this card will be so full of knockouts if that's the case. Although, I mean, it is kind of knockout heavy. I will be picking Dan Ige. And I think that Pitbull's game is not quite volume heavy enough, and I think that he will be overwhelmed by Ige striking. Ige can play that rangier game when he is when he's the taller of the two and he's the longer of the two. He can sit there and jab and poke and prod at range. But I think Ige is going to force him to come in He's gonna poke and prod him. He's gonna like keep that like aggressive jab on him, like how Ilya does. He's gonna try to push you backward, jab you, and then pull you in. And once you've came in, he's gonna land his big shot. And once he's landed his big shot, I think he's gonna finish off Pitbull because he is 38 years old. There is a chance that Pitbull knocks him out, but he has a granite chin, and I just haven't seen it happen. So I think he wins this fight by knockout. Patricio Pitbull slowing down. He's also not the size for this weight class, not in the UFC at least. These guys at 145 in the UFC are big dudes. Like, look at the reach difference. That matters. It's going to matter. Dan Ige's jab is going to piece this guy up for a long time, and then he's going to knock him out. I will be moving to the welterweight division. We've got Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. Kevin Holland back on a little win streak, and I think he's going to continue the win streak. I will be picking Kevin Holland by submission, round 2. I think what's going to happen is Kevin Holland's going to be doing well. His weird, awkward footwork is going to be bothering D-Rod. It's probably going to frustrate him pretty bad. Kevin Holland's another one of those dudes who's like good at landing right at the dick tip of his range. Shout out Conor McGregor, I guess. That just threw me all off. Yeah, Kevin Holland's just great at landing right at the edge of his range, and I think he's gonna crack D-Rod. I think he's gonna crack Daniel Rodriguez, and I just can't with the Conor stuff that's happened recently. I can't say D or Rod or Dick Tip. Just all of this is just, it's been too great. Holland by submission round 2. He's gonna land big shots on Daniel Rodriguez. I think it's gonna be I can't remember if he's southpaw or orthodox. Whatever his rear hand is, I'm pretty sure Holland is orthodox. I think his right hand's gonna land clean, knock down D-Rod. In the scramble of trying to stand back up, D-Rod's gonna give up his neck and get Darce choked. Round 2, I think Kevin Holland's gonna frustrate him round 1, and then round 2, D-Rod's gonna finally come in, get dropped, and then get submitted. Moving to one of the harder fights to predict for me, in my opinion, because of this Ariel Helwani interview with Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa has sat here and said and admitted all the problems that he's realized in his career. He said that, he understands, or not in his career, but in his last few fights at least, he understands that he needs to be pressuring harder and did not need to be trying to counter-strike a guy like Sean Strickland. It makes me believe that Paulo Costa wants to come back and be aggressive and really get after him. But I think I'm going to pick Roman Kopylov by decision. And how I'm going to reason with this, I think Kopylov's going to get the first 2 rounds. I think he's going to get rounds 1 and 2. I think he's going to be the more technical and fast striker in those first 2 and the first round and a half. I think he's going to be faster, more technical than Paulo. And a problem to really deal with, honestly. I think he might hurt Paulo a little to the body. I think he might hurt him to the body with one of those kicks. I don't think he'll finish Paulo Costa, and then I think Paulo Costa will come back in the 3rd round and start landing some very good combinations and stuff like that, but I think it's going to be a little too late. I don't think he'll get the finish. Paulo Costa has rubber bones. He just does not have any bone density. He doesn't harm people when his strikes land. He doesn't have concussive blows, when Paulo Costa lands, he looks like he should decapitate you. But, when he lands, these dudes are always okay. They don't get rocked. They don't get hurt. They're just kind of like, I didn't like that. It's about it. So, I don't think Costa's going to be able to finish Kopylov. I think that his striking just isn't enough. I could see the aggressive Paulo beating him. Like, I could see first round being Kopylov. Like, if Paulo Costa is going to win this fight, it's going to be by decision, and Paulo Costa will have to win the second and third round, and Kopylov will win the first. This is going to be a 29-28 decision, in my opinion, either way, but I think it's going to go Kopylov. And if the old Paulo Costa shows up, I think it'll go to Paulo Costa. But I don't think that guy's going to show up. I think Roman Kopylov will win by decision. Moving to the main event of the evening, we have Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. This is their third fight. I wish this had been Dustin Poirier versus Gaethje, and they had done Max versus Dan Hooker, since Dan Hooker is also injured, they could have done Max versus Charles Oliveira, but they chose him for a title fight instead of Arman. There are a lot of missed opportunities we had here, and this is what we got to. Dustin even wanted the Justin fight, and it makes more sense. They are 1-1. Dustin has swept Max so far. I think, personally, do not follow my pick on this one, because I'm picking Dustin Poirier to win. But that's because he is one of my favorite fighters, and I grew up watching him. I will be picking Dustin to win this fight by decision. I think he probably loses, to be honest. But he has beaten Max both other times they fought. He has had Max's number every time they fought so far. I think Max is far more in his prime than Dustin is. I think Dustin has exited his. Although his last fight was really good against Islam Makhachev, he performed very ably versus how he would have during his prime, like when he fought Khabib or Conor. You know, I think that Dustin would have been tapped out by Islam in the first or second round, in all honesty. But the Dustin that showed up against Islam was one of the best Dustins we've ever seen, honestly. And had that guy been younger, he may have been able to beat Islam, but his body just couldn't keep up with what he wanted it to. I fear that will be the same in this fight. I don't think that he's taken any steps back, but I do think that his injuries for sure will be a massive problem for him. I think his footwork is going to have slowed down. Honestly, I could see Max Holloway getting a fourth round TKO, something like that. But I will be picking Dustin. If you're smart, you're probably going to be picking Max. Although Max did get viciously knocked out in his last fight, like viciously, and heavy ground and pound was followed up. I think that will be kind of countered by the fact that he is moving back up to lightweight rather than cutting weight again massively. I mean, if he cuts weight for this fight, don't be surprised if Dustin cracks him bad and hurts him. But I'm picking Dustin for the fight because he's one of my favorite fighters. I've watched him since Fightville, so I love Dustin. I hope he goes out on top. I hope he wins, and I've never really been a Max Holloway fan other than his fights. And even then, I've rooted against him in most of them. So, these are my picks. We'll go back over them, and I'll kind of give confidence on who you should follow my picks on. I would not follow my pick on this one. I'm picking Dustin Poirier by decision. I think Roman Kopylov is practically a lock against Costa unless the old Costa shows up, so I will be picking Kopylov by decision as a lock. Kevin Holland is a lock, in my opinion, for this fight card. Dan Ige is I don't want to say he's a lock. Dan Ige is a lock. Those three fights are a lock for sure. Daniel Zellhuber, lock. Vinicius Oliveira, lock. Brandon Allen, lock. Francisco Prado, I don't trust it at all. I think it'll happen, but I just don't trust it. Atiba Gutierrez could get caught, so and he's not very experienced, so I wouldn't place massive money on him, but you can put him in a parlay, obviously. Islam Dulatov, I think that he's as much as a lock as a contender series guy against a UFC veteran could be. Jimmy Crute, do not pick Jimmy Crute. Or do not follow that. Don't try to bet on Jimmy Crute or Ryan Spann. Do not bet on these fights. Bruno Fajeda, I think that's a lock. And Carly Judice, it's a women's fight. Take your risks there. We have done fantastic this year, though. We featured on the UFC predictions tracker last week as well. For the Derek Lewis card, we were the number 2 return on investment for predictions and method. So, getting correct picks and how the fight ended or how the fight went. We were number 2 to a guy who only picked 6 fights. We picked the entire card because we picked the entire card for every fight card because it takes actual thought process to do that rather than just picking, I'll show you my locks only. Because if I did that, I would have won 100% last week. Just saying. Anyways, that's the fight picks. UFC 318 looks like it's going to be a solid card overall. If you're not paying for it. So if this was a fight night somehow for you in particular, where you didn't pay for it and it was free, then it's an incredible card. Anyways, that wraps up my fight picks. Join the Tapology, make some money. Subscribe. That makes the money go up if you're subscribed, obviously, because it's attributed to my subscribers. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the fights. Bye.